Hello, Battle Brothers. Welcome to the channel. So I finally managed to get my sniper to the max level. So I'm covering my personal build in this video, my personal sniper build. So as always, let's start with the loadout with the primary weapon. So I think sniper has the second most choices of primary weapons out of all the classes. Usually, you only get one or two or three, except for tactical, which has access to most of the weapons. Uh, but for the sniper, I mainly use the Last Fusil. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, or if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, I'm sorry. But to be fair, I haven't tested out the other guns as much as the last fusil, so I'm not sure how useful the other guns are. But yeah, this is my go-to weapon for the sniper. Like the Melta rifles and the multi-Melta, the last fusil only has limited number of ammunition, so I'm I always go with the one that provides the most ammunition, which is this one, the Gathalamor Crusade. Again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm not a Warhammer 40K expert, but yeah, I this is the one that this is the version of the gun that I'm bringing. Now, as for the perks, uh, I'm actually like not sure what the most optimal way to build or what the best perks are to choose for the last fusil, but I went with this spread. So instead of getting faster shots, I chose to increase the max ammunition because again the gun has limited ammo capacity. And then it leads to this perk, Adamant Restoration. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is restored by 25%. Uh, it's another source for you to replenish your ammunition. So that's always welcome. So this is the part where I had a difficult time choosing. I didn't know if I should mm, increase the radius of the last fusil as much as possible to help with ad clearing because the sniper is very weak to ad clearing. But when I tried to go the bottom row route, and like I got this one and I also got this one, it didn't really help that much with ad clears. I barely noticed the difference. So that's why I changed to this. I went to the upper row, which deals 10% more headshot damage. So that I can kill Majoris up to Terminus level enemies faster. Granted that I land my headshots. So this one also deals 10% more headshot damage. This one helps with survivability. Killing an enemy restores armor 0.5 seconds earlier. And then this perk gives you an additional 10% headshot damage. So it's a significant increase, 30% total. Then that leads to this perk when your health is below 30%. Killing 3 enemies or more with one shot restores health by 5%. Okay, this is not that difficult, but not very easy also to proc. But it does give you an an option to replenish your health, so that's always helpful. Um, instead of since I changed rows, I lost one uh perk, so I couldn't get to this one, but I didn't want it anyway because it just prevents you from losing control from heavy hits when you're charging your shot, which isn't really that much of an issue. So I could have gotten this one. Shots charge 15% faster, but I just chose to get this one instead. Damage increases by 10% against terminus level enemies. So I can deal more damage to bosses again. Okay, let's go to the secondary, which is the bolt pistol. I've already covered the bolt pistol in my previous builds, but I'll go through it again here in case this is the first video that you've watched in the personal build series. So even with the limited ammunition for the last Fusil, don't I rarely run out of ammunition because there are even in the ruthless difficulty, uh, you'll there are several portions of the stage where you have access to ammo crates, and even if you run out of charges, there are ways to, like, you can just use your secondary for a while and or just go melee, sorry. So yeah, the version that I bring is also the Gathalamor one, the one with the most firepower. Oh wait, this one is more powerful. No, screw that. Yeah, it's this one. Ophelian Liberation Beta. Okay. As for the perks, I went full the entire bottom row because the top one starts with the maximum spread decreased by 10%, which isn't really an issue. Again, I rarely use my secondary weapon, and when I do, I don't really use it for very long distances, usually mid-range, and even if I don't land 100% of my shots, it's not, again, it's not really an issue. Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to hit enemies from mid distance anyway, and even if you miss, you can just like rain bullets on them. So this leads to retaliation. After a perfectly timed dodge, you deal 25% more damage for 5 seconds. It's a Even if I don't use the secondary weapon that much, this is like it's an additional source of damage, which is always welcome. Like the additional sources of ammunition. Um, After a gun strike, iron grip. After a gun strike, recoil is reduced by 35% for 5 seconds. It's not really a perk that I'd get if I had the choice, but this is the next uh, this is the next perk in the tree, so I have to get it. Uh, if you can call this a tree. And then this leads to a flat 10% damage increase. These are the types of perks that I like. Just passive without activation conditions. Magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum. This is also part of the reason why I don't get the additional the version with the most ammunition, because the tree already gives you additional ammunition, and I rarely go through all of the 120 rounds plus the 15% increase here. So next one is rapid health. When your health is below 30%, killing 10 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 5%. This one is not that easy to like activate, especially when your primary is out of ammunition and you're stuck to using your secondary and melee. If you have a grenade, then this is very easy to do. But when you're going along a path and you're not like stuck inside an area that you need to do an objective first before you can proceed, you probably there probably won't be any a group of 10 enemies that are like piled together in a group. So yeah, if you're just like running along the path, it's not that easy to activate. But those sections are short anyway, and usually you're stuck in like a certain area, in a closed area where waves of enemies come at you. And again, another way to restore your HP is always welcome. Uh, yeah, this one again increases your magazine size. So if you have a total of 30%, 12 times 3, 36. I guess if I'm doing my math correct, you'll get 36 more shots, so a total of 156 ammo. And the last one, another flat damage increase. Okay, for the melee weapon, we only have access to the combat knife. And with melee weapons, I always go for the version that has a fencing level defense. Even if it's not the most powerful one, being able to parry enemies is more important, at least in my opinion. So yeah, fencing is the easiest way to, or melee weapons with fencing make it a lot easier to parry enemies. It's doable with the balance, but I just prefer fencing. And anyway, in this case, the fencing version also is more powerful, but it's just a bit slower. As for the perks, okay, so this is how I distributed the points. So with the bottom row, melee damage increases by 5%, as opposed to this one, which has an activation condition. You need to have full armor, but you'll get a 10% increase. So when you're like going into battle, you're gonna get hit. So chances are you can only have access to the 10% increase during the opening of the battle, or the opening of a wave where you don't have any damage yet. This one is just more reliable. So I chose the passive 5% increase in damage. which leads to kinetic energy. Each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3%, up to 30% for 3 seconds. Uh, it's an additional, an increase in damage, so that's always good. And stringing your heavy attacks isn't that hard to do, especially with the combat knife. But I don't think you can get the damage up to 30% most of the time because the enemy will counterattack. So you're gonna have to parry, and then you might lose you might lose the buff if 3 seconds pass, or you will lose the buff, and this leads to perpetual strength, which again increases your melee damage by 5%. Okay, I'll get to this later. And then it leads to this one: replace distance stab with shoulder bash while evading or sprinting. Tap the attack button to quickly perform an area of effect forward attack. This is a perk that I really abuse. When there are a lot of ads, especially with the sniper, you don't have weapons that can add clear very quickly, and you don't want to waste your last Fusil shots on ads. So what I do is I tap dodge, then shoulder bash an enemy, which will always uh, guarantee a gun strike if the ad has like full HP. So I just rinse and repeat that: shoulder bash, gun strike, shoulder bash, gun strike, so that I'll always replenish my armor. Because even if ads don't do a lot of damage, if there are a lot of them, they're gonna go through your armor quickly. Okay, and then the next perk is Tyrannid Slayer. Melee damage against Tyrannid enemies increases by 10%. You only have that covers like 50% of the enemies because the other types of enemies are chaos enemies only. And there are usually, wait, I'm trying to remember. I think the only operation where there aren't any Tyrannid enemies, or there are only a few, are operations 4 and 5. Yeah, so this is pretty much useful for a lot of the operations. And there are some Tyrannid enemies in Operation 4, if I remember correctly. Not a lot, but there are some. In Operation 5, I don't think there are a lot. And your main problem with Operation 5 is escorting the part where you escort the payload along the tracks and then up the thing where you need to like bring the payload to. And those only have chaos enemies. Okay, and then the next perk is Reeling Blow. Enemies hit by Whirlwind Slash deal 30% less damage for 4 seconds. Cooldown is 10 seconds. This is good because you'll probably be using Whirlwind Slash a lot because of this perk. You'll be trying to use heavy attacks as much as possible so that you can increase your melee damage, and then it will also decrease the damage of the enemy that you're attacking. Okay, and then the next one, melee damage increase against extremist level enemies, 15%. I wish that this was extremist level enemies or higher. Actually, this is very specific to the lictors and those enemies that go underground. I think I'll just get this one so that I can cover both Tyrannid and Chaos enemies. And yeah, yeah, I'll reset and I'll just get this one because if this was Terminus, I'd consider it. But with Extremis, I mean, your teammates are gonna help you anyway. Yeah, I'll reset. Oh yeah, so I won't be getting these two. So I'll be getting this one, which will give you an additional 5% increase without any conditions. And yeah, this one, which gives you 10% damage increase to chaos enemies also. Now I'll stick with this one so I can debuff because I usually use the melee weapon to 1v1 Majoris and higher level enemies. If it's ads, I just do the shoulder bash. I mostly do the shoulder bash, gun strike combo and combo loop. So I'll stick with this one. Okay, so that's it for the weapons. As for the perks, I'll start with the core perks, the first column. I didn't go with block break because it's only useful for as far as I know, the only enemies that block are the Tyrannid Majoris enemies with swords, right? And I don't know if this covers the small Neurothorpe or Neurothrope. I forgot. But those twin flying Tyrannid things with green shields. I don't know if this goes through those. And this one is pretty much useless because you can. I usually reserve my camo when I need to revive my teammates. So speed doesn't really factor into the reviving into it. So I think you can either go with block break or melee mastery, but uh, I chose melee mastery because there aren't a lot of enemies that uh, have shields or block, and I find myself uh, like 1v1 ing Majoris level enemies or higher with melee. So this one is something that uh, is more useful for me because it's a situation which I encounter more often. So for the second row, high capacity, maximum amount of ammo you can carry increases by 10%. This can be helpful with the last fusil because of the limited ammo, but this one just provides a lot more utility. I'll cover this later. The other one, reloading while having low ammo increases melee damage by 15% for 5 seconds. Okay, again, this isn't very helpful because one, you need to have low ammunition, and it increases your melee damage, which mm, I guess it. has some use, but the activation is unappealing because you need to have low ammo for it to happen. And this perk is too good to pass up on anyway. So yeah, I always get the vantage point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your primary weapon's damage by 20%, which is a lot. So you'll be sniping enemies anyway. So you can those 2 seconds of just remaining stationary isn't that much of a risk since you'll be doing that most of the time anyway. Okay, for the third row, iron grip. Recoil from both rifles and stalker bolt rifles is reduced by 30%. If you're not using Last Fusil, then you can probably use this. But since I'm using the Last Fusil, this is useless. Okay, same with this one. Bolt carbines reload 15% faster. Yeah, if you're using bolt carbines, then change to this one. But I'm using the Last Fusil, so this is the only viable option for me, and it's pretty good. Killing more than one enemy with one shot from a Last Fusil restores its charge by 1%. So yeah, it's not hard to activate at all because enemies are always grouped together. There's going to be at least more than one enemy, and they're usually close together, so you can get a lot of free shots from this perk. For the team perk, marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all squad members. Hmm, I guess this is good, but I'll go over the other ones. Weapon spread is reduced by 20% for all squad members. I'm not a fan of. Excuse me. I'm not a fan of perks that manage your weapon spread and recoil because they aren't really an issue in this game, where you're either attacking swarms of enemies, so you're not gonna miss anyway most of the time, or you're fighting like large enemies. So again, they're they're gonna be hard to miss. So yeah, this is pretty much useless. Also, okay. So between marksmanship and squad renewal, I usually choose squad renewal. In order for my in order for my teammates to be able to like use their skills more often. Headshot damage increase. But now I'm thinking about it, I'm quite torn between the two because this needs a headshot kill to restore a 10% ability charge. But it can make or break your run, especially with the ruthless, especially in ruthless level. If there's a terminus level boss, when add spawn, you can use this to charge your uh to get your squad's skills to charge more faster. But I'm thinking if it's better to just pick this one so we can kill everything faster. Hmm. I'll just go with marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all squad members. Wait. Actually, no. Sorry, scratch that. I'll stick with squad renewal because assault and assault and vanguard classes don't go for headshots anyway because they're more melee oriented. Same with the bulwark. Heavy classes usually bring multi melta, so they're not gonna be doing headshots. Well, so yeah, only tactical. If you have only your tactical uh, teammate is gonna benefit from this. If and that's assuming that you even have a tactical class in your team. So I think this is the best option. Okay, now going on to the gear perks. First column renewal. A headshot kill restores camo cloaks charged by 5%. I'm sorry. I'm thinking if managing the cooldown of the camo is something that I'm even considering because again it's not really an issue because I tend to save my camo charges for emergency situations only, and you'll have more uh like there are other ways that you can proc your camo, which I'll get into later. Okay, this one, efficient readiness. Manually activating camo cloak automatically reloads ranged weapons. I'm using a Las Fusil, so it's not something that reloads, so this is practically useless. Which leaves this one, purification. Manually activating camo cloak removes status effects. Okay, I guess I'm gonna go with this one because status effects are very, especially the one where you're like poisoned and it, well, not poisoned, where everything that you see goes green and you have very limited vision. That's very annoying. So you can just activate your camo and then deactivate it right away so that it won't consume that much charge. So yeah, I think this is the best one. So for the next column, Guardian Protocol. When you are reviving a squad member, Camo Cloak hides you in the squad member for 5 seconds without spending a charge. This could be useful, especially in those cases where both of your teammates are dead and you're the only one remaining. But let's go into the other perks first. But yeah, the downside is the I mean, reviving your teammates and hiding them. Actually, I don't think this is very useful because I can just use my camo cloak to revive my teammates, and they don't really have to go invisible because the aggro won't be on them anyway. Um, I think it's gonna shift to your remaining team member when you after you use your camo. And this one, first melee attack that breaks camo cloak deals 100% more damage. Hmm, I'm just thinking. uh, how useful this can be. But yeah, I think this is the best option. Targeted shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. So wait, I usually go on Camo when I'm about to die and when I'm going to revive teammates. I save it for those occasions. So I don't really use the Camo Cloak that much for offense. So, on paper, I think this is the best option because you can go on camo, wait 2 seconds, uh, yeah, take advantage of this remain stationary, which will increase your range damage by 20%, and then this further increases your range damage to 75%. But yeah, with my playstyle, I don't use the camo cloak offensively. So this might be more or this might be better for my playstyle. But like I said earlier, yeah, first range attack that breaks camo cloak deals 75%. No, no, yeah, I'll stick with this one. Even if I don't use the camo cloak for offense, at least I'll have the option. And also, in case the camo cloak still hasn't deactivated by the time that I revive a teammate, at least I'll get a more powerful shot um, when I break the camouflage. But yeah, I can go either way with these two. Um, okay, so for the third column, persistence. When Camo Cloak deactivates, you take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This one's good because you can manually deactivate your camo, so you can save your charge, and then you'll take less damage. The third one, ambush. When Camo Cloak deactivates, it startles nearby enemies. They will temporarily lose control or get knocked back. Cooldown is 30 seconds. I can see some uses for this also, but yeah, I think I'll stick to this one so that um, I think this combos well with this one. So you can attack an enemy with 75% more damage, and then you'll get you won't break camo right away. You'll get an additional 2 seconds, so you can readjust or get some items if you need to. I don't really like this one. I mean, I can see its use, but I tend to go for the Majora's level enemies anyway, and when you kill it, the nearby ads get stunned. So, but I see the uses for this one. I'm more torn between these two. 20% less health damage for 5 seconds, but this one you're fully Well, you're not invulnerable. Stray attacks can still hit you, but you'll remain undetected for an additional 2 seconds when you break camo. Okay, I'm gonna stick with lingering concealment. Uh, I think it's better that the enemies don't detect you yet after you break your ammunition, so you can run away if you need to get some items instead of them immediately swarming onto you after you take your shot, and then you're gonna have to like manage the aggro while getting the items if you need to get some items. Okay, lastly for the signature perk, the first one is evasion. After a perfectly timed dodge, Camo Cloak automatically activates without spending charge for 5 seconds. Cooldown is 15 seconds. I actually like this one also because it gives you like a risk-free gun strike if you perform a perfect dodge. Because usually, especially when fighting terminus level bosses, if I do a perfect dodge, um, there are like several times where I can't do a gun strike or it's very risky because the boss will continue attacking you. So this helps manage that. The third one is Pattern of Excellence. Performing 4 consecutive headshots restores equipment charge by one. Cooldown is 180 seconds. Okay, this is not that easy to activate, but it is doable. But it just restores your grenade. I guess it's important for snipers because you don't have strong ad clearing capabilities, and this might help with that. But this I don't think foregoing these two for this one is advisable. I think it's still better if you get one of these two. The second one, emergency override. When you receive lethal damage, Camo Cloak automatically activates without spending charge, and you become invulnerable for 5 seconds. There's a 3-minute cooldown. 612, yeah, 3 minutes. But like this has saved my life and my an entire run. Not really a lot of times, but more than it's already saved me more than once. But this one is something that you can activate more often. You just need to perfect dodge an enemy. This one gives you a full camo cloak. Sorry, let me just think of the risk reward ratio for these two for a bit. Um, I think they're pretty much the same. Uh, but evasion is something that I can activate more reliably. 'Cause this one, you'll need to die for it to activate, and it's gonna have a 3 minute cooldown, which isn't that long, but when you're in a boss fight, every second counts, and you're still gonna be at a very low health after this activates. But then this just gives you like an insurance or a free guardian relic without replenishing your HP. But I'll stick to this one for now because this one is something that I can activate more frequently and more easily. And it gives you 5 seconds of invisibility, so you can maybe help a teammate or revive a teammate or run and get some items. Okay, sorry it took me too long with the signature perk, but yeah, that's my personal build for the sniper. Right now, I am working on the Vanguard and no, the Assault and Bulwark classes. I've only gotten them up to 11 at this point, but as soon as I max one of them, I'll upload another video. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.